Hi everybody. Looks like the ticker's just gone live. Red dot in the corner. We like that. So welcome Tuesday to another one of our sort of live webinars talking about various different subjects. So I shall give it a bit of a minute or so before we get into it. But just to let you know, there's quite a lot going on this week. You may well have seen on the Facebook page there's a post on the Beyond the Lens Academy and also on the Carl Thomas Photography that shows you or tells you what we're doing this week, as well as all the links are live there as well. If you scroll down the page, you'll be able to find the links to the. I'm just want to find it so I can tell you what we're doing the rest of the week, so you can see which ones you want to join and get yourself a little reminder, which is a useful thing to do. So, where's my list? Where's my list? Right. So today, now we're going to be talking about just a few of those sort of challenges. You know, the kind of things that are probably going around in your mind if you are thinking about earning a living from your photography, full-time, part-time, or actually want to earn a bit more, or you're not earning enough, whatever it might be. So I'm just going to talk about a few challenges, not all of them, just pick on a couple that I kind of come across when I first started. And then at 3 o'clock this afternoon, I'm going to talk about personal style. One of the most important things about any sort of creative business, particularly photography. What is it? How do you go about getting it? And what impact does it have on your business when you sort of get to a point where you've got a definable, recognizable personal style? So that's later on today, 3 o'clock, if you fancy that. Tomorrow, just the one tomorrow, Lightroom. So we're going to go live, going to do a Lightroom edit, and I'm going to show you the new masking tools, well, relatively new now, that they've put in there. They've changed the layout on the develop module on the right. So some people have got quite confused with that. So we're going to touch on that tomorrow. Then on Thursday, open day. So we are opening the doors for new members for the last time this year. We only do it a few times a year, as you know, because we spend all our time working with our members. So the full membership of the Academy for photographers, whether you're beginner, amateur, whatever it might be, will be open with some great offers, as well as the exclusive, here it is, look, going down the bottom here, exclusive full frame club. It's going to be limited membership to that, and that's opening also, opening on Thursday, and that is all about getting yourself revenue from your photography. So on Thursday, we've got a few things going on. I'm going to 10 o'clock. I'm going live just to tell you a bit more about it, if I haven't already told you enough about it. And then at 2 o'clock, we're going to be talking about marketing your photography business. You know, the marketing side of it, very important, very difficult in some ways. And then at 7 p.m, I thought I'd do an evening one, so a bit of a big one, if you like. I'm calling it a masterclass because it's an evening, so we've got a bit more time on our hands. And we're going to be talking about the whole concept of turning your business or turning your photography into a business, whether it's full or part-time, or turning your existing business into a more profitable one, which is this exclusive full frame club. So we can talk about that on Thursday evening. The doors will already be open. They've been open all day long, so I'm sure we'll have members in. And then on Friday morning, generating, managing leads, a little bit more about that. Another one of the big challenges. And then at midday, cheap competition and your confidence. So we're going to be talking about those kind of things and how that impacts or how it can impact your business and how to manage it. So let me just put the website up. I'll get this wrong. I do it. One of these days, I'll actually get a link and just cut and paste it. Beyond the Lens Academy.com. Type it too fast, I'll get it wrong. Beyond the Lens Academy.com. There we go. Ryan, brilliant. Yeah, we've had quite a few registrations, in fairness, which is really exciting. So on the top of that web page, make sure I've got that right, beyondthelensacademy.com. Yeah, you will see there's a little video from me from when I did a live, I think it was last week when I opened the registration form. It tells you a little bit more about the Academy, as well as the Full Frame Club, particularly the Full Frame Club, actually. And there's a link to a registration form. Not onerous, just who you are. If you've got a business, what's your website address? Or, what kind of camera are you using? Where do you want to go? What do you see your challenges? Why might you be interested? And the reason we're doing that is so we can get a flavor of the kind of people who want to join, which is good, but also to make sure that people who do join are a good fit, so that we're not wasting your time and money or our time, to be fair, because we are very busy and we've got a lot of members. So, and the Full Frame Club, part of it, which is all about getting your sort of business going or reinvigorating it, is a very hands-on thing. So we are very hands-on with you. There's lots of content that exists in the portal already, but there'll be lots of webinars and one-to-one stuff. So if it's something you're interested in, get yourself registered on the registration form. You don't have to pay anything at this point. It's just to make sure I know who you are, and I can make sure you all know when we go live on Thursday morning what the information is and what the deals are. So where do we start? Anybody got any questions? These are interactive. It's free. So if you want to ask me any questions, please do. But I'm just going to touch on just a few of the challenges that you might face. Well, you may already be facing, to be honest. So if I go back 6 years, I won't go back to the beginning of my photography journey because that was probably 40 years ago. In fact, it is. But as a professional, I decided to go and become a professional dog photographer, actually. Although, just so you know, this club, the Exclusive Full Frame Club, is not just about dog photographers. There's equine photographers in the portrait photographers, all sorts, any kind of photography in terms of a business are welcome because, of course, the principles are the same. The way you market and where you market might be different, but the principle of running a photography business is the same. And so if I go back 6 years, beginning of May 2015, when I was thinking about it. Now, I was, so for those who don't know me, I'm Carl Thomas, by the way. I've got Carl Thomas Photography, my dog photography business, which I'm just about to tell you about how that started, and Beyond the Lens Academy, which I started a couple of years ago, or a year and a half ago now, which is an online training platform, of which the Full Frame Club is going to be part of it from Thursday. So yeah, back in 2015, I was working as a management consultant, having done lots of different things over my career, and then started working with my other half with a town planning business. So a planning consultant, helping people get planning permission or stopping people getting planning permission, depending on who was appointing us, really. So that's a great business. And occasionally, or more than occasionally, my sort of hobby, I picked up my camera again, having not used it for many years. I just started taking photos of the then Badger, where is he? He's not in here. He's in the other room. My Springer. And started getting interested in sort of wildlife photography and dog photography again. And I went on a 2-day workshop, a chap called Andy Bigger, who you may well not know, and I came back and thought, you know what? I quite like the idea of, and to be honest, at the time, you know, you look at the business now, 25,000 followers on Facebook and 3,000 or 4,000 on Instagram and God knows what else, you know, very successful, very profitable business. Didn't start like that. And it didn't start with the intention of being like that either, if I'm honest. It started off as a part-time kind of, well, you know, if it's expensive, I'll be buying these cameras and lenses and stuff. So if I can make a few quid almost on the side, if you like, you know, weekends as a bit of a part-time thing, that'll be great. That will do. And so that was the initial thing. Now, the challenge with that, which is no different to the going full-time really, is, okay, well, how do I tell people what I'm doing? I'd already started to get quite a few people on my sort of ordinary page, if you like, my old private page, Facebook page, sort of commenting, oh, I love your dog, I love the photos you put up. Because I was just posting photos of my dog, Badger, as he was a puppy and as he was growing, not as dog photography, but just as pictures of my dog. And people started to connect with it. So I thought, like this. So the first challenge was, right, what am I going to call myself? And that can be a challenge. I know people who spent ruminated for days and days and weeks on what you're going to call yourself, what you're going to call your business. There's no right or wrong answer to it. I personally like the idea of Carl Thomas Photography because it's my name. A lot of photographers do that, but also a lot of very successful dog photographers do the opposite. So Kaylee Greer, a very good friend of mine, you might know, Dog Breath Photography in America. It's not her name, but you know, that's fine. So it's either or. I decided to go with Carl Thomas Photography, and then having done that, thought, right, what's the next thing? Facebook page and website. And so, to be honest, they're not hard to do. They may seem a bit onerous, but they're not. But they are. These are the things that will be in the back of your mind. Like, bloody, I've got a Facebook page. I've got to do a website. Well, let's just talk about the Facebook page. You can set up a Facebook page, if you already exist on Facebook, so you've got your own personal profile, in about 10 minutes. It doesn't take any longer than that. You don't have to do anything fancy with it. Obviously, you've got to think what you're going to call yourself. So Carl Thomas Photography, so when I typed in Carl Thomas Photography, I bought, which I think is a good idea. One thing I would recommend is that you get yourself a domain name. So I acquired carlthomasphotography.co.uk as well as .com, just to make sure somebody didn't use that. So that means I've got an email address that I can use with my name on it, you know, Carl Thomas Photography, as well as the website domain name. So having done that, put all that in Facebook, an email address, phone number, the website address, a little picture at the top. I got my logo similar to this one up here, this isn't the same one, but if you're watching me on Carl Thomas Photography, you'll have seen the logo. It's fairly similar. Got that done on a company called Fiverr for a tenner, I think it was, maybe slightly less. Fiverr, I think it is. It's a big internationally known, very big company actually now. Sort of bunch of designers that are dotted around the country in various different parts of the world who will do some really amazing work for next to no money in the scheme of what we're doing, because they do it on a numbers basis, they do a lot of it. And it's turned around in a day, sometimes 24 hours. So fairly quickly, within 24 hours, I having sat down and thought, right, let's do it, decided what I'm going to call myself. I've been on to, I use fast hosts, but there's loads of companies out there. I got myself a domain name, searched it up. So before you go in, one of the challenges, and I've come across this, people go, I'm going to call myself Carl Thomas Dog Photographer or something, or the Dog Photographer, whatever it might be, or Weddings Are Us, whatever you want to call yourself. They've gone ahead and they've got their Facebook page all set up, and it's brilliant. And they think, because they're going to do the website later, because the website can take a bit longer, not massively. It took me a couple of days to get mine right, but it is easier to get the social media presence done first. But bear in mind, it's important to make sure that if you're going to have a website, which I recommend you do, that you can actually have the domain name that you want. So get yourself onto any of the main suppliers out there that will get you a domain name. Say, I use Fasthost, pretty robust, and they've got a little domain name search. It's a bit like private registrations for cars. So you just go in and sit there and type in the names that you think you might want to use, and it will tell you if they're available and in what domain endings are. So it will say, .co.uk, .com's available, .org, .tv, and all that. And you want to make sure that it's available. And if it is, get it. It costs, I think I spent 20 quid for the 2 domain names, and that was for 2 years or something like that. It's not a lot of money, but before you go ahead and spend a lot of time getting yourself a logo and a Facebook page and social media pages set up, make sure you can have the domain name for the website, because that then follows through for the email addresses. So having done that, I started posting a few photos, and it seemed to be working, and it doesn't happen overnight, but fairly quickly, within a month or two, I was up and running. And the next thing I sort of had to think about, and in the first month when I put it up, I didn't really have anything on the website or the Facebook page about it. It's like, well, okay, pricing. Now, we will cover this in a lot more detail during the rest of the week in terms of the other webinars, but particularly the one on Thursday evening. So if you want to come along and have, because I'm going to spend probably an hour or so on that one, talking about things. So if you've got questions, come along and ask me questions on that one. Happy to answer them today, well, if you want to, but just let me know. So pricing, big deal. What am I going to charge? What am I going to offer? And I ruminated for some time about it, and then decided that I'm going to charge £149 for a photo session. And the photo session includes the traveling to and from the location, the photo session itself, a pre-photo session discussion via email, on the phone, all the editing, and an online gallery for all the images. And a lot of people at this point get really hung up, because it's when it starts to become real. It's one thing having a Facebook page, Carl Thomas Photography, but when the minute you put up there, this is what I charge, you're like, wow. And it is a thing. In photography, for some reason, it's more of a thing, technical term, I know, than it is for quite a lot of businesses. If you're going to sell, I don't know, pots and pans, or become an electrician or plumber or whatever it is, it's fairly straightforward, because you know broadly what people charge, and you can decide what you're going to charge there or thereabouts and say, that's what I'm charging. People seem to accept it. Photography is much more difficult in that, from your own point of view, because it's quite a personal thing. You are sharing your art, if you like. You've taken some images, you've edited them in a certain way, and you're saying, that's what I've done. I hope you like them. This is the cost of the frames or the digitals. And if you want to work with me, I charge £149 for the photo session. And so you've got to decide. What I would advise against, and it's very common that people fall into this trap, is they go, right, okay, well, I spoke to my friends and family and stuff, and they think that's quite a lot of money, so I'm going to charge £50 to start with. And when I get better, I'm going to charge more. I would strongly advise against doing that, because it is very hard to put your prices up once you've become established, and there is no reason to charge less. If you've set yourself up properly, and you've got a Facebook page, website, and all those kind of things, and you know how to take a decent photo, a reasonably good photo, doesn't have to be the best in the world, but you can take a good photo that delivers against what it is you say you're offering, then charge what you think you want to charge. I charge £149, and I've charged that since May or April 2015. I haven't changed it. All I've done, well, I say that, I think about 3 months in, I had an experiment, because I was getting quite a lot of bookings and people spending 6-figure sums on images and stuff, so it was brilliant. I thought, I know what I'll do just to get more bookings, because I'll move on to this now, because the marketing side of things was something I was quite keen to push, i.e. getting more bookings. So I thought, I will try and see if customers will be interested in the photo session. More customers would be interested in the photo session if it was free. So I thought, right, I'll do that. Big mistake. People ask so many questions. They thought, "Whoa, what's going on here? Are the frames really expensive? Then where, how do you make your money?" So it was not the best idea of doing it. So I didn't. I changed it back quite quickly within a couple of days, actually. So with the exception of that experiment, the price listed on my Facebook page. If you go to my Carl Thomas Photography Facebook page, at the top there's a pin post that tells you all about what you get for under £49 and how it works. It's called How a Session Works, the post. And all I do now, from time to time, is I do promotions based on that. So the price is fixed at that, and I get a lot of bookings at that price. But occasionally, like Christmas time, I don't think I've got one running at the moment, but like a half price offer, £74.50 or £50 off, £99, that sort of thing. And that's what I've stuck at. So pricing is a sensitive thing, but don't just think because you've just started you should be less. Because what you will find is if you do decide, and I would advise against it, but and certainly if you're part of the Full Frame Club, ticking along here it is, open on Thursday, you'll get a lot of help and support. Because don't believe me, there's lots of people who've been through the academy with what was called Pro Aspiring Pro, and this exclusive Full Frame Club is a re-envisioning of that. And have a look at their website. No, the Facebook page, Beyond the Lens Academy. If you're on that, there's loads of reviews on there from people who've been in the academy or are in the academy who've set up businesses, and they will help and support. And there'll be people and they'll be involved as well, and they'll help you make that decision about pricing. Because one of the things that you will find is there are a lot of photographers charging 50 quid. There's a lot of photographers charging 25, 30 quid and giving away 3 digital images and so on. And it's not a good idea. Some people say, "Hey, I might just do it as a part-time hobby." It's like, yeah, but you're not charging enough. An electrician who's going to come up at a consumer unit in my utility room, for example, whether he's full-time or part-time, the net result of his work is the same. A new consumer unit tested to whatever the correct standards are. Doesn't matter whether he's full-time or part-time. That's the same, and it's the same for photography, in my view. You're going to deliver a photo session, a professional photo session, deliver a range of images for a client that they will choose from, whether it's digital or frames or albums, whatever it is. That's a product. And by reducing your price expectations, you are likely to do 2 things. Get bored very quickly because you won't make any money, and that's not good. And secondly, you will find yourself compounded by not making much money because you're charging little, not enough. You'll be in an area where lots of people are charging that who aren't really making money, but don't worry about it because they just do it as a bit of a sideline thing, and it's not something they consider a business. They might consider it a business, but frankly, it's not if you're charging that sort of money. So that was one of the things that I researched in some detail. Now, I'm lucky in some ways because I've run lots of businesses over the years, whether they're my own companies or big corporates. I worked for Sony, I worked for Revlon in very senior positions. I have my own company that was a public company. So I've done the whole business thing. And that's a big part of what we do in the Full Frame Club, or what we will be doing in the Full Frame Club, is helping people with the business aspects of photography, because I'm constantly coming across in the, not so much in the academy now, but, just generally people who are amazing photographers, who take beautiful photography, fantastic edits, and they are stunning, but they're not making any money. Not because of their work, because I've just said it's beautiful, but because the business side of it is letting them down. The business side of photography is no different to any other business. So you need to understand, I've just talked about, you need to have a structure, you need to know what you're going to charge, you need to know how that's profitable. And a lot of this we'll talk in some more detail on the Thursday masterclass in the evening. But, what is your cost of doing business? That's something that, not a lot of people consider. So, I'm lucky because what I do is very profitable. I'm very, very fortunate because I run it properly. But there are people in the academy now who have had the same experience and are now earning 4-figure orders, over £1,000 quite regularly from clients. So the cost of doing business for that order might be a few hundred quid. Time spent editing and time spent traveling, and your ongoing expenses for your website and domain names and so on, and the insurances you might have. But it's important to understand that. And understand how to operate a business. How do you charge? What's the best way of invoicing people? Just check that there. What's that? Brilliant. So there's lots to consider. And again, we'll talk a lot more detail about that on the masterclass on Thursday night, because I quite like it's quite an important part. Because a really good photographer running an average business will not do anywhere near as good as an average photographer with a good business head. Because a good business head with the right structure will make a lot more money, 3 or 4 or 5, 10 times more money than a really good photographer who's got the business all wrong. And it's something I see all the time. And, some people have asked me, God, this, it's a good timing, isn't it, for the Full Frame Club? And I'm like, well, it is, because we've been running it for a year in the pro aspiring process. A lot of people go through the academy that I've helped who have now gone on to make money and have got their own businesses. But it's also a lot more interest in becoming a sort of a professional photographer, whether it's full or part-time, because we've had an interesting couple of years and looks like we might be set for a few more months of similar interesting times. And what I have found as a result of it is a lot of the people I talk to have said things along the lines of, well, I was furloughed and I had to work from home for a lockdown. And actually, it gave me time to think. And, getting on the train, schlepping up into London or into Manchester or wherever they lived and worked, to sit in an office all day long, do a job that, pays the bills, but is not fulfilling, is something I don't want to do anymore. And I've listened to what you do. I see what you do. I see that you clearly, you're making a good living. So I'd like to see if I can do the same. There's a lot more people thinking about it. And which is great, exciting news. I can tell you that having run lots of businesses, I had business in Monaco, I've done all sorts of things. I've done the private jets, I've done the Bentleys, Astons, all that. Making your income from photography or anything, frankly, that's your passion. But for me, in this case, it's photography. It doesn't get any better. A day in the office for me is out in the hillside somewhere, in the fields or in the woods or a park or the forest, with a client with a couple of Springer Spaniels or Labs or whatever dogs they've got, because I do all sorts of dogs, on a nice walk, taking photos, getting paid for it. I mean, it's just brilliant. So what else can take about marketing? So these are only two. I'm going to finish off on these sort of two. So we've talked about sort of structure and pricing, and just touch a little bit on marketing, because I'm doing a generating leads thing later on in the week. Can't remember when. Let me tell you. Let's get that one right. So I'll tell you when it is, if I can get my Facebook page open. Right. We are doing that one on... Where's it on? Here it is. Right, here's the list. We are doing... When are we doing it? Yes, on Thursday, 2 o'clock. We'll touch a little bit on that, because it's quite an important subject. Now, so let's wind back to, by this time it's sort of May, June 2015. I've got a few bookings. I've got a website set up. Again, not hard. I've got a method of displaying my images to a client in a gallery so that they can decide what they want to buy. And it was trailing on quite nicely. And it's really then a case of getting the word out. Give yourself a month or two to get yourself established and get everything working right and get your structure right. Get some sessions under your belt, whether it's weddings, whether it's equine, newborns, whatever it might be, headshots, dogs, whatever it is. Get slightly comfortable, and then start having a push. And so what I did, of course, then was the main thing. Then was really just Facebook. That's what most people use and still do, actually. Although the world is changing, is I started making sure that I sort of had a process in place, which you need for any kind of part of your business. And so for marketing, what I started doing in Facebook was, sort of like a process. So I would post regularly. I'd try and post daily. I've been a bit rubbish lately on that, but that's what I was doing. So nice pictures of doggies every day. And they would just be a nice picture of some dogs, and with just a couple of one-line comments saying, look, lovely labs, aren't they? Aren't these two nutters? Or whatever it might be, regularly. And what starts to happen is that people who follow your page, who like your work, as we all are creatures of habit. And so they'll be on the train, they'll be in the coffee shop, they'll be having a coffee somewhere or a burger or a bake, whatever it might be. They've got this habitual process through each day. Everyone does. And at some point in time, they'll get their phone out, or they'll be sat in front of their computer and they'll be, I'll have a little look, see what's going on in Carlton photography. And they log on and they say, oh, yes, there's nice labs, and they'll like it and they might comment. And then Facebook goes, these people here at this sort of time in the morning seem to quite like this Carl Thomas bloke. So let's make sure on their feed that we show it. Now, that has changed over the last 5 years, in that it's more difficult to get that connection, but it still happens and it still is doable. And so regularly, I started to get more and more people, by doing that regular sort of Facebook post, more and more people going, oh, okay, like that, liking, commenting. And Facebook sees this. Same on Instagram. Facebook sees it, and so they start to get more of my feed regularly appearing on their page, on their feed. Sorry, my page on their feed. Get the terminology right. And so what was going on with that was consistency, and it started to get me some decent numbers. I think I got to 1,000 followers inside the first year, maybe even 2,000. I can't remember. It was quite quick. once I adopted this principle. The next thing I would do is that, okay, so every now and again, then I would do this. I broke my strategy down to three points, if you like, three methods: the post, the soft sell, and the hard sell. So the post is what I've just talked about, just a nice picture of dogs and one-liner, no links, no sales, and then a couple of three of those, followed by a soft sell, which would be the same kind of post, but it would just have a sign off on it saying, "Oh, if you fancy a photo session, we've got availability. Drop me a message." That's it. Just a fairly soft sell. And every now and again, you get people going who's been looking at your stuff every day, every evening, whenever it is, going, "Oh, you know what? Doris has got a dog as well. She might be interested." And they start sharing things, and started to get some more inquiries. So that's just working. And then what you do is every now and again, so I would tend to do 3 or 4 posts of standard posts. Then I do one sort of, "Oh, by the way, drop me a message if you fancy a session." And then every month or so, every couple of months perhaps, I do what I would call a hard sell, a promotion. So bank holiday offer. Every booking made between Friday and Sunday evening, session can be any time during the course of the year, half price. And you get like a little peak of bookings. And that little principle, with the exception of a few other things, which I'll talk a bit more in detail when we get into more time and talk about it over the next few days, is what I've done. That's kind of, that worked. That's got me to where I am now, 25,000 followers and a very lucrative and successful dog photography business. Not complicated, I know. But the key to it is consistency. You have to make the time to do the posts consistently, because people are creatures of habit. So if you normally go to a coffee shop on your way to the train in the mornings and you get yourself a latte, and you do that every day, and all of a sudden you go there one day and their coffee machine's not working, you'll find the next coffee machine, maybe the one on the platform, not as nice coffee, but it's working. Next day you go back, coffee machine's not working again. Oh, it's typically 2-3 times and you're out. So you're like, "Oh, that's really frustrating. Off into town. I'll get my coffee from the station. Not as nice, never mind." And then the next time, maybe the next day you go, "Oh, I'm going to go to the station now in case they're still broken again." And then you give them another chance. You give them a third chance. You go in, coffee machine's not working. That's it. They're now off your radar. Social media is the same. If I log on and see stuff I'm following and it's there one day, next day, it's great. But then for a few days it's not there. I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I haven't made any comments on it and shared it. And that's not just me. That's going to be the same for all the other people that have been looking. I'll start going elsewhere because it's not being served up on my page anymore. Because Facebook knows that I'm not happy that the coffee shop's going to be shut. So don't put me there, if that makes sense. That's it. That's what's Ryan saying. Yeah, no, it's so true, mate. It is so true. I'm the same. I mean, I talk about all this, but I mean, I've been a bit rubbish of late because I've been so busy doing other things. Because we've got really quite exciting other businesses. I haven't got enough to deal with at the moment. We've got a prize draw business being launched. So for those of you who've been watching these various prize draw business that appear over the last sort of year, we've got one coming called Aperture Prize Draws for photography equipment. So it's a bit like a company called Agri Giveaways, who I'm a real fan of. Plug, brilliant. It's a farmer down in Dorset, and he does defenders, all sorts of things. But I've won a pair of Swarovski binoculars, £2 worth, and a pair of Shamui wellies for tickets that cost me like £3. So we're in the process of setting up a photography related one. That'll be cameras, lenses, and everything else. So that's why I've been a bit distracted. So I haven't been as consistent as I should, but it makes all the difference. One of the things you can do, of course, which I used to do in the early days, and well, in fact, I have done of late as well, is you can schedule it. So if you know you're going to be out when you really get going, you've got a couple of days out doing photo sessions, or you're out doing your personal work, or you're building your portfolio, so you're not at your computer getting posts ready, is have an evening, maybe at the weekend, and schedule them. You can create posts and schedule them for the week. So if you typically post, and again, posting is also about the right time of day. So, it still is broadly the same. Mornings, the commuter time, lunchtime, the break time, and tea times tend to be the busier times. Not exclusively, and it is flattening out, definitely, but they are peaker times. Then schedule your posts to fit in those times. But you can schedule it all, and then you can be away. You might even be a week off. You might be on holiday. You might be doing a course or something. Then these posts still continue. So the coffee shop's still open. People can get their latte. So they're still going round and round that little loop. And then the next time they go in, they're selling muffins. Oh, I'll have a muffin. So the next time they pop into mind, he's got a promotion on. We'll have that. Really important. So those are the three things, four things I wanted to touch on today. Tempting though it is for me to go on to all the other stuff, I'm not going to, because we've got plenty of time this week. So our little list. Later on today, don't forget, we are going to be talking about creating a personal style. And that's probably one of the next biggest things you've got to think about. Because personal style is what people book. Your style, your offering. Oh, that's a good question. It took me a morning. It's really easy. It can be as hard or as easy as you want, actually, frankly. 10 years ago, you would have had to go to some agency and they'll charge you like 500 quid or £1,000 or maybe even more than that to get it all set up. You can do your own a website yourself, sort of WordPress one, really quite easily. But photographers, there are plenty of sites out there that are sort of off the shelf. So I use a company called SmugMug. Yeah, it's called SmugMug. They are a photography business. So my website, if you go and look at it, Carl Thomas Photography, it is done on SmugMug. The Beyond Lens Academy one is done part of the platform, so that's slightly more complex, that one, because people have to really buy things through that. But the Carl Thomas Photography website, and it does need a bit of an update because I haven't done much with it, but it's got who we are, it's got my portfolio on there, it's got how a session works, it's got all the client galleries on there, all that kind of stuff. You can have that set up in a couple of days. Really simple. And has the ability to demonstrate and show galleries to clients for you with passwords. So a big part of what we do in the early stages of the development of people who come and join us who want to get their business going is that. And I've had it with clients where we've literally do it on a one-to-one basis. We have a little look and say, okay, change this, change that. Particularly using SmugMug because it's quite easy. So that's not a long answer, but not hard. It doesn't have to be hard. And these are all the things, this is why I wanted to do this, that people will often say, oh God, I've got to do a website. It's quite hard, what's it got to look like? It's not as hard as you think. And SmugMug have got loads of themes. So you can pick a theme, put your name in, you can have your own web address on it as well, which I have, and get yourself set up in a couple of days to make it really nice. And then you just update it as and when. Not hard at all. So yeah, later on today, let me check the time again. What time did I say it was going to be? Today is Tuesday. It is the Importance of Personal Style, 3 p.m. So that's a really important thing. It's kind of almost the next thing. It's like, okay, what are people booking me for? They're not booking, they are probably booking me because, you seem like a nice bloke. But actually, they're booking me because they like the work I do. And the work I do has a specific style. And that's what they're paying for. You book a restaurant, you go to a restaurant because you like a particular kind of food. You go and buy curtains, a bit random, I know, because you like a particular type of curtain and style of curtains. Cars, same thing. Photography is the same, actually, frankly, even more important, because without a personal style, that's definitive and sort of obvious, then how are you going to get bookings? People aren't going to book you just because you're a photographer. So we're going to talk about that today, because I think that's quite important. And I'm going to touch on these during the week. So we've got that one. We've touched a little bit about marketing and pricing. I'm doing managing generating leads on Thursday in the afternoon, ahead of the evening one, where we'll spend a lot more time. So if you haven't got that one in your diary, click on and get yourself a reminder, and save up some questions. If there's anything you want to know, bring it along then, because the doors will be open then for the membership if you're just a photographer and you're not thinking about having it as a business. But if you want to do this, the doors are open for that. And it's going to be limited. So if you haven't registered, get yourself on the website, which is down here in the comments below, and the top little video of me again, if you haven't seen enough of me, and there's the registration link. And it'll tell me all about who you are and stuff. So I'm going to leave you in peace now. It's half an hour. I'm going to see you all again, whoever's here, at 3 p.m. this afternoon, where we're going to be talking about personal style. What is it? How do you develop it? And why do we need it? And how important is it? All very important stuff. So thanks for coming along. Ryan Stewart, thanks for your questions and your comments. And I'll catch you later. See you later. Bye.